Ah, finally there it is, Kira thought, recognizing the familiar house through the dense acacia trees. The street was as quiet as ever, with only the birds darting high in the sky, and a few elderly couples were seen in the neighbouring yards. Yes, the village was almost deserted. Young people were gradually leaving, searching for a better life, and only the old people were left to live out their days here. Like many others, Kira had moved to the city hoping for happiness, and for a time she believed she had found it. But then, the woman took a deep breath, tightened her grip on the suitcase handle, and dragged it towards the gate. Kira's heart swelled with emotion. Finally she would see her grandmother. Helena had raised her since she was 10, after Kira's parents perished in a fire at the farm where they worked. The elderly woman didn't watch television, preferring to listen to the old radio in the kitchen. It was her only source of information, along with the occasional phone calls from Kira. Helena hadn't wanted to use a phone at first, but when Kira showed her how easy it was to press a button and hear a loved one's voice, she agreed. "All right, give me that strange device," she had said. "I won't get any letters with any news from you otherwise." In the city, Kira decided to study accounting. She wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps. After graduating, she got a job at a retail chain and quickly caught the attention of the director, Gabriel Flores. Recently divorced and 15 years her senior, he was eager to get to know the young employee better. Kira never imagined that her boss was calling her to his office for reasons other than work. "You're so naive, Kira," he said one day after discussing her latest report. "What do you mean, Mr. Flores?" she asked, confused. "Surely you don't think I'm actually interested in these endless reports," he said. "You handle them perfectly well. I call you here just to spend time with you." "What?" Kira gasped in shock. "But I never gave you any reason to think—" "You know, Kira," Logan frowned, "all the previous accountants practically threw themselves at me once they found out about my wealth, but you act like you don't care at all, and that makes me curious and intrigued." "Well, I don't know anything about your wealth, and I don't want to," Kira stammered. Logan raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Logan didn't believe her. "Don't you want to live in comfort? Don't you dream of having your own home? Trip to the luxurious resorts and brand clothes?" "No," Kira said confidently. She didn't share that she lived in a modest rented apartment with a former classmate who worked diligently at a bank. Their evenings were simple yet fulfilling, spent sipping tea and sharing stories. At the end of each month, they would visit the post office together to send money back to their families. This quiet life brought Kira a sense of peace and contentment she had never dared to dream of back in her small village. Yes, she held back the details because she felt that Logan would definitely remain skeptical. His first wife, also from a humble background, had been dazzled by his wealth, and her extravagance had eventually wore him down. A man of modest habits, he had divorced her without granting her a single penny. His embittered ex-wife, who had failed to give him children, had wished him a life of solitude and misery. But Logan refused to accept such a fate. He moved from one relationship to the next, always searching for someone he believed worthy of his name and fortune. However, his luck with women left much to be desired. He found them all shallow, overly ambitious, and manipulative. Kira, on the other hand, intrigued him precisely because she never flirted with him, never sought his favour, and maintained a strictly professional demeanour. He couldn't determine whether this was a clever tactic, fearing that once he let his guard down, she would exploit him. Noticing her boss's intense gaze, Kira adjusted her conservative skirt and firmly said, "If there are no further questions, may I be excused?" He sighed. It seemed this young woman was genuinely not playing games, and this realization only deepened his fascination, as he had never met a woman of such authentic integrity. The following day, he summoned her to his office once more and made his intentions clear. "Kira, You've been with us for 6 months, and I've had ample time to observe your professionalism and integrity. Therefore, I would like to offer you the position of chief accountant in my other company." Kira met his gaze steadily. Later she would regret that look, but at that moment she felt a spark. Logan had strikingly beautiful eyes, sharp and piercing, yet filled with a deep sadness or longing. She suddenly felt a wave of sympathy for him, so strong that she had to close her eyes. "What's wrong?" Logan asked, stepping closer than she expected. Her head spun. Kira looked down, lost in thought. How long had it been since she had heard a caring male voice so close? Probably since childhood, since she became an orphan. And at that moment she yearned for this grown man to embrace her, to lift her up like a little girl and hold her close. And Logan, as if sensing her unspoken desire, ran his hand through her curly hair and whispered, "My little one." Their wedding, as the newlyweds wished, was simple. The most important thing for Kira was that her grandmother could be there to bless her granddaughter's marriage. Then they went on a vacation, and it was there that Kira began to notice an almost old-fashioned stinginess in her husband. They ate in the hotel cafeteria, and her husband wouldn't spend money on any additional entertainments. Other vacationers went to the city, spent money in shops and cafes, rode boats, jumped from towers and danced, but Logan and Kira strictly followed hotel schedules. Logan believed that additional expenses on vacation besides the trip itself were completely unnecessary, as the cost included everything needed. Soon it was revealed that in everyday life, Logan turned out to be no less stingy. Solemnly handing her the keys to the family safe, he established a routine. His wife had to put all her salary into this safe and account for every expense each evening. At first, Kira thought that he, as an adult, just wanted to teach her, being so young, to be thrifty, but then she realized it was just Logan's ordinary stinginess. Conflicts began to arise in the family. Kira didn't want to participate in scandals, so she tried to leave during arguments, but this extremely irritated her husband. "Don't you dare leave when I'm talking to you," he would shout, "or weren't you taught manners in your village?" "Logan, you're not talking, you're shouting, and I don't want to argue," Kira would reply, trying to ignore the humiliating remarks. "So you think the only solution is to bury your head in the sand like a penguin, instead of facing problems head-on?" Kira finally snapped, her voice trembling with frustration. "Just to let you know, it's not penguins that bury their heads in the sand, it's ostriches." And she stormed out of the room in tears, feeling both confused and deeply hurt. However, the final nail in the lid of the coffin of their marriage was Logan's refusal to help bring her grandmother to the city for surgery. Helena had been diagnosed with cataracts and desperately needed an operation in both eyes to avoid going blind. But when Kira brought up the need for help, Logan immediately accused her of trying to burden him with her relatives, as if he wasn't already supporting her, a woman who had brought nothing to the marriage. This time, Kira didn't argue. She simply packed her things and left. She had been saving money on the side for a while, ever since she realized her husband was incredibly stingy. Fortunately, she knew how to hide her savings as necessary expenses. By the time she left, she had enough to return to her grandmother. "Granny will definitely go to the hospital," she promised. That evening, Logan called. "Kira, I'm sorry you made this decision," he said without a hint of regret in his voice. "But I don't want us to be enemies, so let's stay civil people. I'll let you know when you need to come in for the divorce." Kira said nothing and hung up. He's not a person. He's some kind of cold, soulless machine that only knows how to count money, she thought bitterly. Not a drop of remorse or guilt. He's just sorry I made this decision. Indeed, it wasn't the family life she had imagined. Where was the love, tenderness, understanding and support she had read about in books? Where was the happiness? Or was it impossible to find happiness with a wealthy man. Maybe she was beneath Logan by social standards, and that was the problem. And now she had been living in the village for a month. One morning she decided to wash her grandmother's clothes. The weather was dry and warm, so soon their yard was filled with colourful blouses, dark skirts and patterned housecoats belonging to Helena, all hanging on lines strung between tall poles. Kira stretched and took a deep breath. Ah, the village air was wonderful. Suddenly she heard a knock at the gate and an unfamiliar male voice. "Hello, would it be possible to rent a room here?" She turned in surprise. A bearded stranger stood at the gate, smiling at her. "A room?" she repeated, taken aback. "I'm not sure. Let me ask my grandmother. Please wait here." The man smiled broadly and sat down on the bench by the gate. Kira rushed into the house. "Granny, there's a man asking to rent a room," she said. "What?" Her grandmother's poor eyesight made her scowl. "We don't need any vagrants here." "Granny, he doesn't seem like a vagrant," Kira said. "Oh, what do you know?" her grandmother snapped. "They wander around scouting places, and then they'll either steal everything or burn the house down." She walked to the gate, and the man, seeing her, stood up and greeted her by removing his straw hat. "Good morning, Ma'am. Could you tell me where I might find a place to stay around here?" he asked. "What brings you to our village? There's no work here, and most people have left. What are you looking for?" "I'm just travelling and wanted to see how people live in the countryside." "Oh, so you're a vagabond then? Now get off my property, please, before I call the local policeman." Kira looked at the man and shrugged as if to say, "What can I do?" But the man didn't seem offended. He just smiled and said, "Well, thank you for not chasing me away with pitchforks." Kira watched as he slung a light backpack over his shoulder and continued up the street, whistling. He doesn't seem like a genuine vagabond. His clothes are clearly second-hand, his sneakers are worn, and his backpack is dirty and grass-stained. He must sleep outdoors often. As Kira helped her grandmother with chores and chatted with her, she had almost forgotten about the morning's encounter. But that evening, their neighbour from the end of the street, Madison, came knocking. "Helena, I'm sorry to bother you so late, but I have a small favour to ask." "Helena, let Madison in." "What's the matter, Madison?" "You see, I've taken in a worker. A good man, serious. His name is Logan. He's been helping me around the house, chopping firewood and repairing the ladder to the attic. You know, I could never manage these things alone." Kira and Granny exchanged glances. They immediately knew who this worker was. "But what do you need from us?" Helena asked curiously. "His clothes, they were practically falling apart. Could you spare some of your men's clothes, Helena?" Helena sighed heavily. "Oh, Madison, you're too trusting. You let a stranger into your house. Aren't you afraid?" "Oh, what do I have to be afraid of? I've lived my life." "Please, Helena, don't be stingy," Madison asked again. Helena grumbled but rummaged through old trunks, where she still kept her husband's and son's clothes. She couldn't bring herself to throw them away or give them all away, but now it seemed fate had intervened. Madison eagerly took the bundle of clothes, thanking Helena profusely, and hurried home. "Look how she cares for him," Helena said thoughtfully. "Maybe this Logan is a decent man after all." The next day Kira went to the village shop for groceries. She walked past the meadows with bright spring grass and enjoyed the warm sun and fresh air. Suddenly she heard quick footsteps behind her, turned around and gasped. "Dad!" The man caught up with her, took off his straw hat and looked at her in surprise. "Hello, I'm sorry if I startled you." Kira blushed and involuntarily looked at the clothes he was wearing. Her father's checked shirt and light summer trousers, which fit Logan as if they were tailored for him. "Oh, these are your father's clothes," Logan realised. "I didn't want to wear them, but Mrs. Wright insisted. I can pay for the clothes if you like." "Oh, no, please. My father doesn't need them any more. He and my mother passed away a long time ago." "I'm sorry to hear that," Logan said, his voice filled with genuine sympathy. "I truly feel for you. Besides, we are familiar, in a way. I grew up in my uncle's house and don't remember my parents." Kira glanced at him quickly. The man seemed to be telling the truth. "So we're both unlucky then," she said. "Looks that way," Logan replied sadly. "But how did you end up in our parts?" Kira asked, changing the subject. "I told your grandmother the truth. I'm just travelling. I work in the city and got tired of the noise and bustle. I chose your village randomly. You could say I put my finger on the random place on the map. And as you can see, fate brought me here. Not something else." "Do you believe in fate?" Kira smiled. "Why not?" Logan replied evasively. "Sometimes it brings quite pleasant surprises." They walked together to the store, chatting casually the whole way. Kira briefly shared her story, and Logan confessed that he too had gone through a failed marriage. After the divorce, he decided never to get involved with women again. "Really?" Kira smirked. "What did we do to scare you so much? Though you don't have to answer that. I swore off Moneybag." "Moneybag?" Logan asked, confused. "You know, wealthy guys. It seems to me that they all have some strange quirks, at least among my husband's acquaintances. I didn't see a single one I could trust unconditionally." Logan looked at her from under his cap, his eyes sad. After lunch, Kira received a message from Logan about the time and place of the divorce proceedings. She began preparing to go to the city. "Granny, maybe you want to come with me?" she asked. "We could go to the ophthalmology clinic, get in line for the surgery." No, Helena waved her hands. "What's the rush? My vision is still good enough and the surgery can wait." The next day, as Kira was riding the train to the city, Logan sat down next to her. "Well, neighbour, I didn't expect to see you here," she exclaimed. "Neither did I," Logan said. "I'm actually going to the city on business," he said, removing his hat. Kira noticed for the first time that his curly hair was tied in a neat bun, and his beard was trimmed. His clothes were also clearly not borrowed, a black branded t-shirt and new dark blue jeans. She didn't ask where he had gotten them. If he said he was going to work, then that must be true. The important thing was that he had a job and wasn't begging somewhere. They talked all the way to the final station. As they parted ways at the station, Logan suddenly suggested, "Maybe we should exchange phone numbers and ride back together. You're returning today, right?" he asked hopefully. "Yes," Kira nodded. "I have no reason to stay in the city overnight." She was surprised that the vagrant had a phone, but still wrote down Logan's number. Logan showed up at the court with some young woman with heavily made-up eyes. Seeing Kira, he immediately introduced his new girlfriend. "Kira, meet my future wife, Lily," he said. The woman raised her eyebrows haughtily and nodded. Kira nodded, and her ex-husband, who seemed to be in an unusually good mood, suddenly said, "I'll let you know when the wedding is, and I'll definitely invite you." Kira thought, "No, he must be joking, or just trying to provoke me. What an absurd idea, inviting your ex to his wedding." But Logan didn't stop there, and continued in a sweet voice, "If you'd like, you can bring someone with you. Do you have someone? Or have all the men in your village vanished?" Kira bristled, but took a deep breath and replied, "Thank you, I'll think about it." A month before the wedding, Kira received a letter with an official invitation to Logan's wedding at a luxurious restaurant. She was taken aback. "He convinced me to have a modest wedding in a cafe, but with Lily, he can afford to go all out." She was irritated by his audacity, but also saw an opportunity to teach him a lesson. So she devised a bold plan. She decided to ask Logan to pose as her partner at her ex-husband's wedding. Logan laughed. "To pretend? Well, that's perfect. It seems my true calling is to pretend." He leaned in and unexpectedly kissed her on the cheek. "Actually, I'd give anything to be your real partner, not just a pretend one." Kira looked at him in astonishment. What did he mean? And what did he mean by his calling to pretend? Kira started preparing for the event, although her grandmother strongly disapproved. "It's a stupid idea to go to your ex-husband's wedding," she grumbled. "It's just humiliating. You have no self-respect." But Kira was determined to give Logan a revenge. Of course, Logan would need to dress appropriately to make her plan work out. She cautiously asked Logan if he had any clothes suitable for a restaurant. And Logan, as always, smiled broadly. "I have something. I'm a great pretender, remember? What about you, Kira? Do you have a beautiful dress?" "Oh, Logan, you're so mysterious," Kira exclaimed. "I have a dress from my high school graduation. Luckily, I haven't gained any weight since then." He frowned. "No, Kira, that won't do. It'll be obvious that the dress is old and you need to outshine the bride at this event. So, let me handle this." "Are you going to get me an outfit from a magician's show?" Kira joked, becoming more convinced that her intriguing acquaintance was an actor. "Let it be so," he replied evasively. The next time they went to the city, Logan took a taxi straight from the station to a boutique. Kira wanted to bombard him with questions, but he put a finger to his lips and said, "We agreed that I would handle this, so no questions." The dress Kira chose could indeed outshine any wedding gown, except that its deep green colour made it clear she was not the bride. Logan also picked out a small clutch, heels, and an exquisitely beautiful necklace. Kira was amazed with the sight of it. "This must cost a fortune. Did you rob a bank?" Kira asked, eyes wide with surprise. Logan laughed heartily and, lowering his voice, said, "Don't worry, the money is clean." Kira nodded mechanically, but she still couldn't understand where all this was coming from. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. When they arrived at the restaurant at the appointed time, the entire staff suddenly beamed at them. They were given seats of honour, close to the newlyweds. Logan, his face flushed with anger, spent the entire evening stealing disbelieving glances at the couple. When the music started and the dancing began, Logan stood and offered his hand to Kira with a bow. As they swayed across the dance floor, Kira whispered urgently, "Logan, please, you have to tell me what's going on, or I'll lose my mind." "What if I tell you the truth?" he asked, his voice soft. "Will you run away?" "No, I promise," Kira replied. "All right, but first, let's wait for the bride to throw the bouquet." Logan led Kira to the cluster of eager women, and the bouquet landed perfectly in her hands. She turned to him, eyes wide with astonishment, as he presented her with a bouquet of red roses and a small velvet box holding a ring. The restaurant staff stood nearby, wearing knowing smiles. One of them handed Logan a microphone. "Kira," he began, his voice warm and sincere, "I remember our talk about money bag. That's why I didn't want to reveal that this—" He gestured around the elegant room. "This is my establishment, and it's not the only one. I took some time off and decided to spend it in the village. And I'm so grateful I did, because that's where I met you. I met you and fell in love. And if you're as happy about our meeting as I am, please be my wife." The guests applauded enthusiastically, momentarily forgetting that they were supposed to be seeing off the newlyweds, Logan and Lily. But Logan raised his hand, signalling for silence, and looked into Kira's eyes. "So, will you marry me?" he asked softly. "How could I refuse such a crazy money bag like you?" she whispered. She rushed to him, hugged him tightly, and pressed her lips to his. The restaurant filled with music, and the guests began to dance again. But Logan and Kira still stood in the middle of the hall, unable to break their first kiss.